I haven't had a chance to shave since we were on the run from Vatic, and now I just have tribbles everywhere.
I have to fart so bad, and we're in the lift.
Yes. Captain's Pod, Stardate 731323.1. Welcome aboard the Starship Enterprise, and thank you for joining us as we take a brief shore leave from the world of cinema sins to explore the universe of Star Trek. I'm your Captain Ian Whittington, and with me as always, rumour has it the Daystrom Institute stole her DNA, attempted to merge it with a tribble, but the tribble rejected the DNA because it was too chaotic. It's Ambassador Danae.
Oh, I want to be partial tribble.
No, the tribble was like, fuck that. No, I'm a chaos beast and this is too much.
Yeah, the closest I get to a tribble is when I decide not to shave anymore. Are you okay? Did I break you? Are you okay? Oh, no.
That was amazing. You just have tribbles growing everywhere, or you turn into one big tribble. What are we saying?
It reminds me of my dog, Twix, who has beautiful soft fur, and it grows very, long. Think Chewbacca. Mm-hmm. But, you asked me recently, actually, if I've considered letting him go back to his Chewbacca form. Because
grown.
I take him to the groomers. And the answer is no, because it turns into all of these dreads and knots and issues. It's hard to brush. I would have to brush him upwards of 5 times a day just to keep his hair from matting around because it's so soft and fine. So that's basically what I look like when I'm in tribble form. Just my dog
Twix, full
covered
hair.
in hair.
Yeah.
Just very hairy.
Amazing.
I was actually at Sin Week. We went out into the sun and I was like, oh, I haven't plucked all of my chin hair recently. So I'm pretty sure all the fans are like, wow, I didn't realize that Danae looks like a tribble when she's not 50 feet away from me on stage. Wow, this is alarming.
This is new. And also, why is her skin burning? Oh, she's been out in the sun. That's what I thought the concern was going to be. You immediately crispen as soon as you hit some sunlight.
I did manage to not burn. That was good.
I was impressed because I did burn. The back of my neck burned. I was in Nashville for less than 6 minutes and I'm burning. It's like, it's night. How am I getting sunburn at night? Anyway, I'm a little bit conflicted. I want to apologise for last week's episode and Danae does not.
Yeah, it's a weird. As content creators, there are times when we know that we're tired and we're recording out of our normal series and we're out of our normal kind of schedule. And so maybe it feels different to us, but it might not be different to other people. And I still am conflicted about last week's episode. I don't know that I want to apologize for it.
No, as in the episode of Picard as well. And we haven't had a single, man, that was garbage. Or maybe you guys are just too nice to do that. Go back and listen to last week's episode. Tell me if you think it was a hot mess.
Oh my God, stop it.
Don't do that. No, we were, it was an interesting episode of Picard. We were just talking about it now and it just put the brakes on and we loved the fan service, a little bit of story progression, but something just didn't mesh everything together. But I guess that happens sometimes. I'm still overall really, really happy with the series so far. This week, we are going to be talking about episode 7, which is called Dominion.
And it has 7 on the thumbnail. Those bastards. That's
Wait,
so
who's
cheeky.
the bastards?
The people that put the thumbnail there.
What's wrong with having 7 on the thumbnail?
It's just expected.
Such a spoiler.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a bit of a spoiler having Geordie on the thumbnail last week.
That's what I'm saying.
That's a dick move.
Dick.
So Dominion, what do we think is going to happen this week? Dominion, unless it's just a red herring like last week, because last week was called The Bounty, and it had nothing to do with the Bounty other than the ship called The Bounty, which was a big misdirect. But Dominion, I would imagine, refers back to the Dominion, the big bads that the changelings are all part of. What's happening this week, Ambassador, before we dive in?
Well, I mean, since they give us words and then the words mean something else, I'm guessing this week we find out about someone's domination kink, right?
Yes. The Dominion is now a new sex cult in Star Trek.
You have 7, you have Rafi. It's the perfect time.
Yeah, let's do it.
Who do you think is the dominating one? No, we're not doing this.
No, we're not doing it. I mean, it's 7. Come on, it's 7. Come on.
It's Rafi.
Are you kidding? She is the
No.
bottom. 7 is the top.
We're not talking about this.
7's the top.
We're not talking about this.
We're not.
We actually have Star Trek writers that listen to our show. We're not devolving into
Who
this.
I'm sure they agree. Honestly,
We're having fun, people. We're just having fun.
Based on Trek Twitter, that's probably the best conversation that they have. A lot of it is like, what do you want? Terry Metellus, like, he put out a tweet saying, I don't know what you want from me, people. If you don't want spoilers, stay away from Twitter. Like, he's got to talk about it. He's got to publicize it. He's got to talk about it. And he said the next 3 or 4 episodes, unsurprisingly, are going to be spoiler heavy. So yeah, watch the episode and then get on the internet, which I think is fair. Okay.
Or aside from downloading your favorite podcasts, just don't go on the internet and see what happens.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Have you ever actually completely unplugged from all things? Like no phone calls, no texts, no TV, nothing for more than a day?
No, not in living memory. No.
How do you think you would react?
I'd be fine. Last time I did it would have been 2011 because that
When
would
you
have.
were born.
Yes, I would. Yep. Youngest captain in Starfleet, 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Ian.
this was for like a mountaineering trip, and I was in actually probably West Yorkshire or somewhere, in a mountain, no reception, no TV, in a hut for 3 days, and that was it. But that was with like
people
15
around.
people, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the best way to be distracted by not having connection to the internet.
The people
is
that
to
you
have
connect
people
with
around.
actually are with you, yeah, so you don't need the internet connection with them. Yeah, amazing.
I don't know why I asked that. Anyway, I'm excited for this episode. We're in the last four episodes.
7, 8, 9, and 10. Yeah.
Okay.
4 episodes left. Let's go. And then there's Strange New Worlds in June. There's Starfleet Academy that's just been announced next year. Lower Decks is at the end of this year. Season 4 renewed for Season 5. Strange New Worlds has been renewed for Season 3 as well. We have so much Star Trek. But first, let's go to the holodeck. 2 to beam out. Welcome to 10 Forward, the part of the show where we grab a drink from the replicator and share our immediate thoughts and feelings on the episode we just watched together. Most important question first, what is your beverage of choice?
I'm eating Raisinets.
Beverage.
Oh, well then in that case, I'll just, I guess, drink lab goo.
Oh, nice. I want to boil it first and torture it and then drink it so that it takes my form and I am forever immortalized for at least 50 years.
Crystallize it.
Yeah.
Chunk it up.
You want to freeze it and then you want to dissolve it.
As some sort of an ice cube for the other ones.
Yep. It's our favorite part of the show. Let's do the synopsis, Danae.
How about you do it, Captain?
Nope.
Shit. In this episode, Vadic talks a lot. The end.
Nope. Not good enough.
Let's see. Okay. This episode can best be synopsisized by saying that the Vadic cat and mouse game seems to have come to an end, and Vadic happens to have the key to everyone's question of what the fuck is going on with Jack, except for last episode, he had a nice little break. Not a mental break, but he had like a break from the mental break. And Vadic finds her people.
Oh, does she? She does.
You think they're all fake?
No, she does. She finds
Okay. And infiltrates. Did she know that it was a trap? Did she have a plan from the very beginning? Did they know that Lore was going to somehow be an integral part of it? Did you know that Lore was never really actually asleep? We all saw it coming. In fact, this episode does so much of thinking that it's revealing something that we don't know about, but has already told us about, or we're so ready for answers that the entire time we maybe painted our nails. The end.
Oh my, okay. Yep. Answers were had. Data and Lore did things. Vadic revealed things. And Tuvok was there, much to Aaron's annoyance. That's where I'm actually going to start. Actually, Aaron, like, I whooped. I whooped when Tuvok appeared on screen. And he went, yay. Something I have to do homework for. And my response to you, Aaron, is just you haven't watched enough Star Trek and you're being punished for that. Overall thoughts and feelings on this week's episode, Ambassador. Did you like it?
No,
you didn't like it. Interesting. No. Okay.
No, this episode actually has soured a lot of things for me, and I'm trying. But let me do what I always do. Let me just give you guys a reminder. I just watched the episode.
Yes.
It just happened. I haven't had a chance to really sit with it. The first time I had Thai food, I was like, what is happening in my mouth right now? A lot of new flavors, a lot of spice happening. Like, I don't know how I feel. And then I had like this really interesting intestinal response to it, and then of course, what goes in comes out, and that was new experience as well. But the second time I had Thai food, it was like, that was pretty fucking good. Like maybe my body just needed to acclimate. And I don't know if that's how I'm going to feel about this episode later. But upon first munch, I'm like,
Interesting. No, I get it. I actually liked this episode. There were a couple of minutes, couple of like segments, a little bit of the way in, like where we've got Jack and Picard debating about whether he's worth it, that I could have skipped. Vadic probably goes on a little bit too cliche, villain, over the top for my liking towards the end.
She's already had her episode. Why are we giving her two?
There's quite a lot. And again, it's when this stuff is great the first time round, but now that we're episode 7, we have a lot of repeated conversations, or what feels like repeated conversations, stuff that we've heard people say before, exposition that we've already had. It feels like we're a few steps ahead of what they're revealing, and then the stuff they're revealing we kind of have already guessed ahead of time, and we just repeat stuff about Data and Geordi, Data and Lore, that we heard last week as well.
Is that Geordi's big goodbye scene for Data?
No.
Is that the moment we've been waiting for? Is him begging for his child's life in this very kind of like... I think what upsets me... We'll leave that question for another time. But like, I think what upsets me the most about this episode, or what I'm having the hardest time with in this episode, is this feeling that it's trying to tell me that, because Picard said, I have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And then cut to them dead in the water after an apparent attack.
Well, we want to surprise the audience with the plan instead of cluing us in. Like, it would be way more fun. That may or may
not be part of a plan. We think that maybe that's a setup as part of the plan.
Yeah, that was the setup. That was part of the plan.
So they're like,
they weren't
we're dead in the water.
Yeah.
Right. So they fabricate this scenario.
Yeah.
They tell the crew, hey, wreck this place to where it looks like we were in a battle. And then Vadic and her team board. And I got bored.
I know.
Which is not great.
I wanted to see them Home Alone the ship. I wanted to see them booby trap it and get on with it.
They did. Yeah. They did do that a bit. And there are some things that were interesting, like, Jack taking over someone's body. Like, we'll get to that. But like, it seemed like such a, it was forced. But I feel like it, like you said, these are the same notes. There's not really a lot of questions that they answer. They don't even answer the Jack question here. It's like this episode is meant to kind of surprise us that Vadic maybe had a plan going in, and they had a plan going in, and Lore had a plan going in.
But the thing is, Vadic doesn't have a plan. Like, she couldn't have planned.
She's not supposed to, but it certainly was telegraphed like she did.
Yeah, exactly. Because Beverly is like, she's way too confident. She has a plan. She wants to be kidnapped. No. Like, she had no... I don't think she had a possible way of knowing that Lore was going to drop the shields. I
don't think she knew about... Did she know about Lore?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think that there's a way that she knew that Lore was...
Unless she knows that she's immune to phaser fire. Maybe that's the only thing, is that, yeah, you can drop this and shoot me, but I'll be fine.
Listener at home, I think I just eye-rolled more than I ever have in my
her eyes nearly fell
entire
out.
life.
They nearly fell out.
Why are you spending time showing Picard and Beverly converse about the limits of their own
moral compasses,
and moral compasses, to then only have the phaser set to fuck off, I can't aim, I have old eyes. That is the...
They hit her. It was a really interesting thing, because we tried to dip back into the moral stuff, but then they just shoot her.
Well, but they don't kill her.
No, and they don't kill her either. So maybe they were trying to stun her.
They were talking about killing her, and I'm like, okay, we're going there, They're old. Maybe it's on the bucket list. Go ahead and set it on to not stun. Let's see what happens then.
Man.
And then you pan over to another battle happening, and Jack's just like, I don't fucking care who I kill. Wow, wow.
Let's talk about the good stuff, because there is good stuff in this episode. Geordi and Data talking. Now, I love Geordi. I love LeVar Burton. I think he acts his ass off in this episode. I did love that. I loved the conversation between him and Data. Him finally getting to talk to Data about his death and what that did to him, and their friendship, and a lot of big moments between them that we haven't had. No, I'm not getting into negatives. It's good. I did like that. It's a hard shift then into Lore, you're going to kill my daughter. But I do love that passion. Like, he's so passionate. He's I got so much feeling and emotion from LeVar Burton. I just love him. I love him. Okay, hands off Geordie.
There are things that I liked too. My favorite part was the choreographed fight scene at the end.
Yes,
I thought that was pretty
that's
fucking
really
awesome.
cool. That's fun.
If you've ever watched somebody play a shooter game while they have a VR headset
Yes,
on,
kinda
it
like
was
that.
like that.
Yeah. I like
Because you
that a
have
lot.
like, I don't understand how Jack is taking over little LaForge's body, but you know what?
We know mind
maybe
control
we'll talk about it in
happens now.
predictions.
We're doing a what women want thing now, where he. Have you seen that movie?
No, but I'm glad it was a movie reference because I was about to be like, really?
No, it's a movie reference. Oh, I forgot. Mel Gibson. Okay, Mel Gibson drops a toaster into a bathtub, and it gives him the ability to read women's minds. And how does he use this power, Danae?
To sex.
He uses it to seduce women into sex because women, I don't know if you know this, but all women are thinking about is, how would this man seduce me in the perfect way? And then he just follows that step by step. And that's what women want. And we were like this close to Jack doing
How
that. Just
much
touch the
better would
hand.
that scene have been if little LaForge, if she was thinking about, I think I'm kind of attracted to him. But how funny would it have been if her character was like, I wonder if his crotch smells. Like how it was just like the
she's
really
just thinking
raunchy
about-
thoughts.
Man, I spilled a coffee on my console earlier. I really hope no one rats me out. I hope no one noticed that. I
Just
think I dropped
really
the shields by
stupid.
accident.
Like this hangnail
Yes.
is so
I
distracting.
haven't had a chance to shave since we were on the run from Vatic, and now I just have tribbles everywhere.
I have to fart so bad and we're in the lift.
Yes.
Like I need to rip ass so bad right now.
That's what's actually being thought about.
Damn those burritos.
Amazing.
Damn
Amazing.
them.
Yes, did like that. Very, very cool. I did enjoy that very much. Now, something else that I enjoyed is we dipped our toe back into what TNG is so great at, and that was the moral discussions around the conference room table. We nearly got there because Beverly was like, I have a solution. It's pretty immoral. I don't like making a biological weapon based on an alien's biology because then that can be used to wipe out the entire species. That's not a good thing. And I'm going to be... Oh, no, I'm talking positives. I like that we went there. We didn't give it enough time. We didn't give it enough of the TNG treatment where we actually break it down with the different points of view. Worf would be like, fucking let's go. Let's do it. If we have a weapon, let's do it. Beverly would be like, I don't think we should do this. It's immoral. And then Geordie would like be some kind of middle ground and Picard would unite them all together. And we nearly got that. We nearly got that. But then we kind of shifted gears into boarding party.
Yeah.
Tell me something you loved about the episode today.
Okay, other things I liked about the episode. There is positives to Vatic also. Technically, I really did. I enjoy Vatic as a character. I think she's really intriguing to watch. But I found myself kind of going like, where is this episode going? Are we going to, like, what are we going to know by the end of this episode, or what's going to be revealed by the end of this episode? And so as much as I really enjoy each character's moment to kind of shine, it was still difficult. There was a moment where I was like, okay, Vatic, shut up.
Let's go now. Let's get on with it.
I don't want to hear your cool words anymore. I mean, it sounds awesome. It sounds eloquent as fuck. Like, she's a great bad guy.
Amanda Plum's great.
And I love the writing. It's juicy.
Yeah. Here's where I think the problem is. Again, this is the same problem that I think season 1 and season 2 have had. I think this should have been 6, maybe 8 episodes long. We keep stretching these mysteries into season-long things, and by the time you get to to episode 6 or 7, I'm feeling some mystery fatigue, where we're still holding on to this same question that we've had from episode 1. Now, if you're distracting me and giving me like lots of stuff to focus on and to listen in and to clue into, cool, but we're sitting in a lot of these same questions and same mysteries over and over and over again. And it's the whole, I want to enjoy the journey. I don't need necessarily to enjoy the reveal. The reveal can be whatever the reveal is going to be. I want to enjoy getting there. And I have from episode 1 to 5, 6 and 7, it feels like we've ground to a bit of a halt with a few really cool moments. And then leaning on some pretty heavy like kind of old school references, which is fun in and of itself, but I just want more meat on the bone. Like,
I don't know what the meat on the bone would be from me, but it felt like, so like last episode, Geordie joins the team. And so does Datalore. And so we go into this next part and we're told once again, like, Data and Lore are both in this being. We can't really separate them. It's too complicated. There's actually 2 other memory chips in there, but not like a whole network. So B4, whatever, and Soong are in there too, but more as like a part of the system, whereas there's 2 separate like full systems that are fighting each other. So now we're introducing this sort of like internal battle thing. And I think that they're doing it for multiple reasons, obviously. Like, it's a great way to make it make sense for there to be tension and also information. It's a great way to bring back in a relationship between Geordi and Data and really all the memories that are coming back. But when you put that in with a ship that's running from Starfleet, that is trying to hide and outmaneuver, that has a wacky Jack on board, that is being like really closely hunted by Vadic, that story gets lost.
Yeah, agreed.
Because, and that's the one that that's the note that we've been hearing this entire season, that if it's like listening to a symphony where there's like this sustained part and it just keeps sustaining, and it's like, okay, when is this going to resolve? When is this going to resolve? When is this going to resolve? And maybe you get distracted by other things that kind of sprinkle in and out. And I think Data and the Datalore thing is supposed to sort of give us something else to tune into a little bit and kind of listen to and enjoy. But I'm way too close to like what's going on with what are we doing? Like, are we going back to Starfleet to save the day? Are we going to Frontier Days? Are we going, like, what's going on? Where is Will? The show opens up on Seven in the captain's chair talking to Tuvok and trying to figure out through voice recognition if it is in fact Tuvok by playing a sort of chess of conversation. And that's an interesting thing. I thought
great
I
opening.
loved it. It was so clever, and it sets it up perfectly of what would actually be going on with this crew. Who can we trust? So it's interesting to me to think, okay, so then their next move is to try to figure out who else they can talk to, and then we're kind of like thrown away, like, where is Worf and Rafi? And we wondered where their ship was for arrival last time. Well, we didn't see them depart this time, and they're supposed to be coming back. So, maybe they're going to do like a Ex Machina sin next episode. Who knows? So they're kind of like off and everything. And I thought that was a really nice kind of pair up. And there was something really creepy about when the Shrink shows up too. Like, you've got the symphony music kind of going on, and they're telling a beautiful story.
Yeah.
But Vadic, when she takes that scene and she just eats up that footage, and again, it is epic and it is beautifully written. When you start to pop in the music of Lore, or the tune of the Lore, the Datalore kind of line, all of a sudden it goes from me being invested in the crescendo again and the resolution of that main story into this distracting story of Datalore. And this is a character that I love. And these are characters I want to see have resolution. I want to see LaForge, but I don't want it to feel like a forced part of this throwaway thing. Like, well, okay, so LaForge and Datalore are on the ship. What are we going to get them to do? Well, I guess Datalore could probably take over the ship again. They've done that before. Yeah, it's a good idea. But what is Datalore's, motivation? Datalore's motivation is chaos. It's to try to align with an enemy, because an enemy of my enemy is my friend. And meanwhile, you've got Jack battling his stuff, Beverly facing the person that's been hunting them this whole time, Picard thinking about murdering somebody and then not murdering somebody. And it was, again, felt like another one where like, okay, this is a lot. It was a lot. So I like it, but it was a lot.
Yeah. This would make a great single episode of TNG, like having the Datalore conflict where they're all in one brain. And I feel like that's what they're reaching for. And I wonder if we'd set this up in episode 1 or 2 with the mystery as well, we would have had more scenes of this conflict between Data and Lore and them learning to live together or separating them. It kind of feels late in the season to be adding another conflict into the mix as well. It does feel a little bit disjointed. It feels like a season of two halves. Like episode 5 ended with the space baby stuff happening and them leaving the nebula. Or was that episode 4? Anyway, one of them. And I'm like, oh, cool. That kind of felt like the end of the season. And each episode after that has been this kind of disjointed standalone thing. And I'm following it all. It's fine. It just, again, it feels like we're spinning our wheels a little bit to get to the crux of the adventure here.
It does, because we're being told too, like Vadic is like, I'm not the main bad guy here. I don't even want Jack. I'm just delivering him. So she's toying with them. And so again, like, we're not even to the main bad guys. We still don't even know really what's going on.
Yeah.
So this episode was a tease. It was just another tease.
Yeah, it did feel
and I'm
very
tired
teasy.
of being teased.
Yeah.
I'm ready for the big thing to happen.
By
I'm ready
episode
for the
7,
end.
I'm ready for the, if we're 3/4 of the way into our session, I want the teasing to have finished and I want to be enjoying it, because soon it's going to be all over and I'll have only been teased, and then no one's going to enjoy anything.
I do think it's important to take some time to give some of the weight to Vadic's story. And I think that's an interesting thing that maybe the fans have been looking for.
Yeah. It's actually a great story, and I had an email that I was going to read out at the beginning of the show, but then I was going to do it in predictions. But I'll still do it in predictions. But basically, they predicted that this is Mr. Paul Dozer. One of his predictions was that Vadic is one of the 100 changelings that were sent out into space to explore the world. So little baby changelings were sent out to explore the universe. 2 of them were, Odo was picked up by a scientist, a human, Bajoran scientist, I think. And so Odo took his form. Another one was discovered by another alien and took their form. So they have a track record of taking the form of the person that found them. So Vadic being kidnapped, etc., by probably Section 31 scientist, being tortured and then taking her form is super duper on brand. Like, that's a great callback, and it makes sense. And I think it kind of lines up with one of my predictions, which was that Jack was a changeling augmented experiment, but it turns out that Vadic and her crew are the experiments and they've broken free. It's very on brand for Starfleet to be the ones that are behind the shenanigans, and it's coming back to bite them on the bottom. So I love that. Could we have had that revealed to us earlier, considering we know she's not the final big bad? I feel like we've held on to some secrets for too long. But yeah, I love that explanation, and the fact that it kind of floors Picard. Again, I'm like, how do you not know that Starfleet is sketchy by this point? But
I
he
think
feels
now
bad
that I'm
about it.
settling in a little bit to all that happened this episode, I think it's just maybe it's not a bad episode. It's not bad storytelling. It's not bad writing. It looks beautiful.
It's
I love the
gorgeous.
costuming. I loved all of that. I think it's a Danae issue of like, I want to know what the fuck is going to happen.
Right.
And
And
this
that's
is a
fair.
me problem.
This is me as well. I am sat there
Because
with
it happens to me in every show that there's 1 or 2 that happen. I'm just like, what did I need to see here? You know,
Yeah.
like what was important to see here?
What
And
were we
I think if I
padding?
watched it again and I wasn't getting calls about my grandmother going to the hospital, my mother wanting to come over and pick up her car, and my dogs having danger, like maybe it would have been a different experience for me, because I'm coming back to it. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And I'm
Yeah.
like wanting to get through it instead of sitting inside
No, I
of
get
it.
that.
But you know, it's really it's hard, because I'm like, it's so convenient that the one crew member that's fighting alongside Jack happens to be the daughter of LaForge.
All
you
of the
know,
convenience. It's lucky that she's trapped with somebody that can help her.
yeah.
I am sitting in a similar feeling, and I at least this time have an urge to rewatch all of this season. I didn't have that with season 2. I want to rewatch this season back to back as 10 episodes, and I bet it flows much, much better, because at the minute the best comparison I can think of is the back end of the X-Files, because the X-Files did this space goo thing where they were these oil aliens, and we didn't really know what the oil was, and we didn't really know what the Smoking Man was doing, and they kept these going for like 10 seasons and 2 movies, and by the end of it we still weren't 100% sure what any of the conspiracy was about. And I remember thinking, I don't want to rewatch this, because I don't get enough answers quick enough, and spreading this mystery out for so long. And I think impatience after 10 hours of watching or 7 hours of watching is fair. Imagine this was a movie, you get to hour 7 and you still don't know what the bad guy's plan is.
Well, and we're continuing to see that this is this Picard. You know, this is more like a different show than it is Picard.
Yeah.
And I am here to watch Picard's swan song. I'm here to watch this brilliant character have a moment. And instead, I'm watching a lot of other exciting things happen with the crew and all this stuff. And I'm like, that's fine. Because, of course, Patrick Stewart can't take the lead role in an action adventure situation. And he's in this enough that I'm not like, where is he? But yeah, it's still, it's kind of like watching a little bit of the suffering when you have too many characters going on. Yeah. So like they've removed Riker, they still have Deanna kind of in the wings. They've removed Worf and Rafi so that we have a smaller amount of people to think about. But it still wouldn't be a terrible thing to just like keep them all together and like cut over in certain scenes to see. I don't know.
I mean, I'm not saying that I want to see Deanna tortured, but last week's cliffhanger, quote unquote, was Riker looking at Deanna and what the fuck have I done? We don't go back to them at all. We kind of lose that tension and we lose that hook with a couple lines of, I don't think they're going to betray us and we've done everything we can. That's it. I mean, obviously Deanna isn't dead. I'm not saying I want that.
Deanna's dead.
The tension just went from cliffhanger to, I guess we won't deal with them. It just felt disjointed, didn't it?
When you watch them back to back, there is a bit of really momentum that shifts for me. Yeah. There's something to be said about the reveal for Vadic. Like, we know from episodes ago that Vadic has a hand overlord.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works. Yeah. I don't understand how part of her body can be separated and have a different personality living within inside of it, but maybe they have to be in separate forms to speak to each other. I don't understand this. And I don't know if the show is planning on explaining that either. And by the way, I fully expect them to just be like, and that's the end of this story. Bye, Picard. But it makes me sad because we only have a few episodes left, and this one did not get us any closer to where I thought we would be. So then it's like, okay, that means in the next 3 episodes, we're cramming everything down to the line. And especially if they're going to like save some stuff for the reveals, like they're going to have to go back. They're going to have to save Starfleet, with their information about the changelings and like reveal who they are. They're probably going to be using Jack to do it somehow. I mean, predictions now, apparently.
Yeah.
And that's cool and everything. And I like that. But we already have the 3-hour countdown. We already have the, Frontier Days is hours away situation. So we're already in. So the next several episodes are all going to be happening in just like a couple of minutes of time. And to me, I don't know. We have a lot to figure out now. And it's not all about Picard. It's not about Jack. It's not about Vadic. It's not about data lore. It's like all of it. It's not about Rafi. It's not about like all of it at the same time. It's everything at once. And so I'm a little bit nervous about the rush to the end of the party.
Yeah.
Like where you really can't sit and enjoy it. And I didn't want to sit in Vadic's story. I didn't want that. I wanted to sit in the characters I'm more interested in. I already had my Vadic moment.
I get it. And it's interesting because I know that Picard has had 20 years of character growth and stuff, but I almost feel like we're drifting into what do we want out of Star Trek Picard? And what you said is right. I think we want a swan song. We want one last trip around the block with the crew. And I get that they're going to be different, but it's so different at this point, and we're seeing so little of Picard to bring him. If he's left the fold and left Starfleet, etc., totally get it. But you kind of want the swan song to almost bring him back in and just have one last glimpse at the crew that we love as they are.
Yeah, and we kind of have that a little bit with them trying to figure out the mystery.
Yeah.
But as soon as Vadic boards, this becomes Vadic's story, and that's okay. Like, I get it, but please, can we not spend? No, last time we had a Vadic episode where she kind of like really took over, she dipped out for like 3 episodes, and we were relieved because she eats that screen so well, and she's just like captivating to watch perform. But they gave her half of this episode, and the problem with doing that is that if we're here for a TNG crew and a Picard crew, they're either giving the bad guy more depth and character because they feel that we need to have it to justify whatever they're going to do, or this character's going to flip and we needed to have this backstory to give us something to make sense. Like writers, they're not going to give that screen time to something that doesn't make any sense for the story that they're telling. So, I mean, I want to believe that because that's what the show has done so far. I don't feel like there has been scenes and exchanges and conversations that have been entirely useless. Well, now that I'm saying that, I'm thinking about when Rafi and Worf were on that
Yeah, but that was
party.
humorous.
They've had so many, like, now we're gonna go talk to this person, and now we're gonna go talk to this person just to eat up time. So, maybe they will, I don't know.
It's interesting. Again, I think some of this would be solved if we only had 8 episodes instead of trying to stretch to the 10 for whatever reason.
Maybe, or they could fill it with things that get us to a different space. Like,
Yeah.
like there is something about, and I know it's cliche, and technically we would send this, but there is something beautiful about the last, like there being a big kind of cymbal crash end to the story, and then here's where they are today kind of moment. So you could always tack on a couple of really beautiful stories at the end of an episode. Like, go ahead and have the adventure, and then let us kind of have a moment where we get to say goodbye to the characters that we're not going to see again. Like, this is a big fucking deal.
Are we going to have enough time to actually say goodbye and have them all together? We still haven't had them all around the conference table.
I'm going to tell you that if we don't have that, we're going to look back on episodes like this and say, this is where you could have had the time to do it.
This is where we could have done it. I am a little bit baffled at this point why we're going to all of the work of separating everybody instead of bringing the crew back for one last TNG moment. And maybe that's what we're doing in 8, 9, and 10. We do have 3 hours of content left where it can happen. It is not easy to spread out a story, to make a 10-hour story, where just short of 10 hours. It's not easy at all. And maybe just make it shorter. A couple of interesting things that came up in this episode. They did figure out that Frontier Day, they're going to put like a clone of Picard, but they need the blood from Jack's blood to complete the organs to send them to Frontier Day.
That was an assumption that wasn't even confirmed.
No.
I'm not entirely convinced that is quote unquote the plan.
No, it doesn't feel like they need both of them. Like, did they need to do that to duplicate Tuvok or Riker, or...
No.
I know they need the body, but why do they need Picard and Jack's blood? The other interesting thing that came up was that maybe Picard's aromatic syndrome was misdiagnosed and there's something else. So maybe this is like, we know way back, some of Picard's DNA was stolen to create a Romulan, to create a clone that was going to do this thing and infiltrate Starfleet, and the Romulans were behind it. So I'm wondering if it's linked to that. Maybe the Borg have implanted him with a disease and the Borg are behind this as well. I do think there's an element of the mystery that's still... We know there's an element of the mystery that's still to find out. But
we're going deep into predictions this episode. I think that's...
I kind of get it because they're not giving us anything.
They're not, but they're also like... At the same time, this is when the writers start to reveal their cards even more. Like, they're going to have to say at some point, this is the story that we're actually telling. And we're right in that window where they're going to be laying down some more solid, concrete clues and then telegraphing it out as we get closer to the end so that people are confident that they know what's happened. And that is something that I see all the time. They could change the format, and that's totally fine. But that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting to have a lot of predictions this episode because there's enough kind of clues about what they have going on that we can kind of guess where this might be going. But I am not convinced that the plan is for the Picard Golem body to be...
Oh no, this would be his original human body.
Super important. Oh, right. The original body then. But yeah, there's definitely a lot that it could be because the disease is not the disease that we thought it was going to be. Jack is obviously his origin is now coming into question. Hello, I predicted that.
Yeah, you did.
And then we have if they are united somehow, does that amplify Jack's power because he's actually in a different body?
It's very interesting, isn't it?
Picard's OG body has the same complications or misdiagnosis that Jack's body does. I don't know. Like, we don't know what they're doing. There's just enough that we don't know what they're doing, but it is chaotic in that ship. I'm sure Shaw cannot sleep at night.
I mean, he's just getting knocked the fuck out, isn't he, all the time?
He's just like, good. I'm glad I'm getting knocked out. I just want to go to bed and wake up and then be in jail, honestly.
Yeah.
I think he would rather be court-martialed at this point
He's out.
than have to deal with all the shenanigans that are going on.
I'm done. Yeah, it's interesting. I still think Jack is going to be a Section 31 creation hybrid super soldier with like with the telepathic powers and the super reflexes, the augmented stuff.
He can teleport. He can control people's bodies.
Yep. It seems like Vatic knows exactly what he is. So I wonder if he was being made in the same lab that she was. So maybe she found out about him. Maybe she's already met him. Yes. Oh, we've gone so deep into predictions now.
In fact, that's just the show.
That's the show. All
Goodbye.
predictions.
Goodbye from this section.
See you next week.
We'll meet you in the
Go on.
Captain's ready room.
That's where the predictions are. So we're probably already in there.
Yes.
I have two last little positives. I do. I still love Brent Spiner as Data and Lore.
Oh, he did amazing.
Just incredible. And I really like the fleshy makeup with still the glint to it as well. When Data appears and he does his like processing, like little activating the shield, whatever it was, and his little like bottom lip comes out, he has the affectation down so perfectly.
When he
it's so
flipped
good.
within a millisecond from Data to Lore the first time, I was just like, that was fucking cool.
It's so
And
good.
you know that he probably has to do that a lot at fan shows. You know that people walk up and they're like, can you do Data and then Lore? And he's just been practicing this for so long.
Just so that he can insult everyone as well. You're old.
It was pretty cool. Yeah.
I love that.
Lore's a little sassy asshole.
Yeah, he is. It's good to see him.
He's a sasshole.
Sasshole. I'm so glad I showed you all of those episodes before getting into this season with Lore, and I mean Moriarty didn't matter so much, but at least we had fun.
Yeah.
My last big point was how fucking good it was to see Tim Russ Tuvok. I squeed so hard. Like, I am a sucker for this. You put someone on a view screen. We haven't seen Tuvok talk in like 20 years. I've missed him so much. And you have Picard talking to Tuvok. One of my weird fan things is characters that never get to talk to each other that are suddenly talking to each other. Like, I want Cisco and Seven of Nine talking together. I want Harry, Kim, and Picard to have a conversation. And just to see Tuvok on screen, whatever he's doing, was just so good. It was so great. I love Tim Russ.
It was also probably a really fun scene for a really big super fan, because obviously Seven is talking to a
An
longtime
old friend, yes.
And there are some exchanges and information that are familiar. And it kind of felt like the writers did a little bit of a fake out.
Yes.
Like, remember when we used to play that game together?
Aaron
And
lost
his response back,
shit.
his response back is like, well, I'll remind you that you beat me a lot. And so it's kind of like on that border. As someone who doesn't know what's going on, I was like, oh, I think this could be him. And there's this sort of this happy tone in the music, and they're kind of all like smiling to each other. And then she goes that next level and offers to meet at a place that would be something that would test him again. And without knowing that we were still in the test phase conversation, I don't understand what the reference is, but I'm assuming a super fan would be like, huh, that's interesting. Or there would be some like little clues that would be peppered in there for the super fan to kind of have the red flags or the radar still up, so to speak.
Kauto was the big reference because we saw them play Kauto so much. He would teach Harry how to play Kauto and he was terrible at it. Seven of Nine was like the only person that could match Tuvok at Kauto, so it was a really good reference. The stuff after that wasn't familiar to me. Now, it could be in passing that I just missed it, but that did seem manufactured as a way to expose Tuvok. But Aaron was so funny. He was like, Kauto doesn't prove shit. That doesn't, he didn't swear, obviously. And he was like, that doesn't prove shirt. That doesn't mean that I was like, no, you're right. But then they brought it back and did some real provings. I'm glad they didn't rest on that as the giveaway.
Yeah. And I think it was good to, again, to see how they are doing the cat mouse hunting kind of a situation.
I love it. Yeah. They keep finding changelings. They keep trying to reach for help. Janeway, I would imagine, has been kidnapped or is in trouble, and that's why they can't reach her as well. Or she's insulated really, really well.
Oh, and that line where Seven says that information that you wouldn't know unless you have Tuvok.
Yes.
And they're like, yeah, we do. And then there was like the little face reveal of dead Riker, which
that was spooky as heck.
Spooky.
I loved it. Well, anything else positive before we move into our nitpicking sins?
Oh, I'm fucking ready for this.
Let's do it. Okay, with that, let's head to engineering for some sins. Battle stations, everyone.
Warning. Warp core collapse in 10 seconds.
This is the part of the show where we re-engage our sin brains, remind ourselves that no TV show is without sin, even our beloved Star Trek. Hit me, Ambassador.
Hit me, damn ambassador.
One more time.
I will say that I would start off with the previously on section, which I choose to watch every week.
This was my number one as well. My number one sin. It was an entire hour long. We watched the whole season again.
We watched previously ons in this episode that were on last week's previously on.
I loaded up the wrong episode.
And I thought I was watching the wrong episode. I did. I checked 3 times because I was so confident. I've seen this before. It was like they took the same exact one, they played it, and then they just added a bit more onto the end. And that was a very frustrating start for me because it's like, do you think I'm dumb?
Do I need all of this?
Why do I need to see all of this?
I remember this.
So I feel very confident that I would sin this one. And one of the ways I would do it is because we have to see it again what's her name? The one that was blown up. She has the earring.
Oh, Ro. Ro Laren.
Okay, so Ro says in the previously on, she looks to Picard and she's like, finish what I started. And then instead, like last week's, I think that they showed a little more of the conversation, but in this week's previously on, it goes from her saying that into ramming into the ship. And so I thought that we could like maybe do like a little sin about Picard being confused about what her last wishes were, and then for the rest of his career he's just ramming shuttles into every ship that he can for Starfleet.
Mystery. Always going to be a mystery. I'll never know. That's amazing. Yeah, that was my first big sin. It was so long. It went on for so long, and it was stuff that we really are familiar with, and it's always a bit of a primer of spoilers for this week because you might get some answers to these questions. I think we can do without them. I really, really do. It's also, I mean, just make us rewatch the whole episode. Like, if you want to get those numbers up, don't do the work for us. You make us watch it multiple times. I'll watch it every Wednesday before it comes out again. I know they mention it in the episode, but we would still sin the heck out of it. Whoever's dumbass idea it was to put Data and Lore in the same body. I'm going to say it. Data is perfect. Data is fine. Data does not need to change. Data can aspire, but it's like me. It's kind of like me saying, I want to learn to play the piano. And suddenly somebody says, yeah, I'll just download it into your brain. You can play the piano now. I don't want to be the old man here, but some of the fun is in the journey. And what made Data so great was his pursuit of being human and to being, it wasn't this goal of I have to be human and I have to be biologically human and I have to do all of these things. It's the journey of understanding all of that. And it just seems wild to me. And crazy scientists are going to be crazy scientists. So I don't disbelieve that Alton Sung would think this is a good idea and do it. But it is so dumb. And I'm just baffled as to why anybody thought putting Data and Lore in the same body was going to end up any other way. It just, and the motivation that Data would want this and the only way he can be human is by embracing Lore. I get it, but I don't think he would want that. I don't think he would want to complete that journey at the risk of freeing Lore, knowing all of the pain and all of the trouble that Lore has caused. I don't think Data would make a selfish call like that and say, yeah, I'll wake up Lore if it means I can be human. He would continue the journey. He turned it away from Q. Q has offered him, with a snap of my finger, I will make you human. And Data has said, no, I don't want it that way. I want to learn myself. It's just,
I agree.
It feels so, we want to get Data back and this is the only way we could do it.
I mean, there's a moment when they are all talking, like Picard and LaForge, they're talking about having to say goodbye to Data again and how they just don't want to do it. And I think that's probably when I would just pop in with a sin and be like, well, then fucking don't.
Yeah, don't do it. No one
Stop
wants this.
bringing him back.
He already died.
Because the questions that I have immediately, it turns into like, for me, Data was a character that can't really be duplicated except for Lore. And it was kind of like this thing where it's like, it's so complicated, it's so complex, and Sung is such a genius that we can't do this again. We can't recreate it. We can't reproduce it. It's just a magical thing. And now there's like another one. But now there's
that
two
makes Data
positron
look like a toaster, apparently. He's like, I can understand Data, but not this thing.
Yeah. And I don't know. I feel like they wouldn't have turned him back on in the first place. And you know, there's this conflicting moment where Picard is like, we need to have questions answered, but I can't watch this happen. And we're literally hearing Data cry out for help.
Yeah.
And what a horrible thing to do to this character that they spent so much time in season 1 giving this great send off to. And to me, it's just like, great. So that means that forevermore, this beloved character has been brought back as a gimmick for information and is just being used. Great. I appreciate that. Like, it's like finding out that someone that you know died a terrible death and there's just nothing you can do about it. And it's not fair and it's not okay. And that's real life. People like have tragic endings. It just kind of sucks that it's my favorite character. And it just kind of feels like he's being shit on and made into this sort of convenient storytelling device rather than this like epic thing that we shouldn't touch.
It's almost like we didn't get to say goodbye to Data in the way that we want, so we're going to do it again. We're going to have another go.
Yeah.
And it does feel a bit cheap. And hand on heart, I prefer what we're doing now to what happened in season 1. I like season 1. I really like that goodbye. This, I think, is a more fun way to do that and quote unquote more true to Star Trek, whatever. I like it, but I don't like it at the expense of season 1. Like, we've done it now. It's really, really hard. I like what they're doing, but I don't like that it's kind of shitting on season 1, really.
It also shits on any episode that has Data plugged into a starship being a bad idea. Like, you have Data lore plugged into your starship and you don't think that something is going to go wrong? Like, have you been in the episode of this series ever? Because that's happened multiple times now.
Many times. What is interesting is, man, hey, how about the holodeck that's on its own independent power source? Wouldn't it be great to put Data into that?
In there?
Right?
Contain the man.
I'm guessing he needs access to all of the computer, but you partition that stuff. You isolate, just like Data is isolated from Lore, isolate the pair of them from the Titan.
Thank you, but he doesn't need it. They just need to know more information. Like, they go there to be like, so do you know why the body was taken? And he's like, yeah, let me just hack into your computer system and tell you all about it. Let's sit down and tell me a story. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's tricky stuff.
It is tricky shit. It is.
Just to sum up that thought, Geordi, bless him, lovely emotional scene, loved it. It's like, this time we might lose Data forever. And I'm just like, yeah, bullshit. Really? This is the problem.
Doesn't mean
I can't believe
anymore.
that anymore. I can't believe it.
I know.
It means
and
nothing.
And that's what pisses me off the most, is it kind of stole that from me in a way. Like, I don't know. There's something about Crying Wolf, and that's just such a true thing to think about. You know, if you say the same thing over and over and over again and it doesn't happen, it loses meaning.
Yeah, exactly. No consequence.
And when you do that with a beloved character, it's like, you guys chose to do that. So how are they going to fix this for me is my question. Watching the rest of this, how are they going to fix this for me? And they might not be able to. Who knows?
Yeah. Maybe that ship has sailed, because you kill Picard, you bring him back. You kill Data twice, you bring him back. We're now so far in the future that does death actually mean anything? It's tricky stuff. Jack has been very, very forthcoming in previous episodes about how he's feeling, about the visions that he's had, but I'm not going to tell anybody that. I can read their thoughts. Just
I have this written down in my sins too.
Selectively,
I have
now
it written
not
in
sharing
my sins.
it.
Yeah, it's like, why not go the extra step? And he's like, I don't even think I can explain it. And it's like, you can't explain that you see a red door and that you hear people say, connect me. You literally cannot say those words. Or is it that pride is holding him back? Because honestly, as somebody who doesn't like to share my own shit and my own struggles with people, I getting to the point where it's like, what's the point? What is the point of sharing my pain when, one, eventually I'm going to get a handle of it, or two, I then have to explain it to you, and then you're going to say things that I already know. You know, like, this is the stuff that I go through when I'm talking about Danae, like me, the person. I don't like to share that stuff. So I'm like, is that what Jack is doing right now? Or does he literally have a hard time, like in his anxiety, to kind of go, I see vines stretching towards a door. Like, I don't know. This isn't like a dream. It's not.
It's so
describing
specific.
a dream is very difficult.
Yeah.
We've all tried to describe a dream and it's gone terribly wrong. But this is a recurring, like, visual. I guess it's real, not real. We're not sure exactly, but I found that hard to believe too.
Yeah.
And
it's like, share
know.
it. Like, you have some really specific stuff, like listening to Sydney's thoughts. It just seemed odd to me.
I would definitely just send, we've already kind of mentioned it, so we don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but Rafi and Worf are on the way back after monitoring something for security, and they're running out of ways to hide because Frontier Day is hours away. So I would just be like, oh, inconvenient. Rafi, Worf, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're, it's like when you're at a family event and two of your cousins decide they quote unquote have to run an errand, and then they're gone for like half the day. They come back with bread, and they didn't have to spend
What
time with
did
their
you
family,
do?
so they win. I was like,
Yes.
where are you going?
Where have you been? Did you just not want the Vatic thing? Of course, Raffi and Worf have to be off the ship so that they can save the day next episode, so that we have people outside of
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
I've just had this thought. What the Titan and crew should have done is they should have messaged Starfleet and whoever they can and said, we are going to bomb the Frontier Day celebrations. We're going to attack it. Give them some specifics, and then they would have to cancel it. Like, create a threat for them. Give them a reason to cancel it rather than trying to convince them of this other reason. But that's getting really, really nitpicky. I did wonder why Vatic said forget the transporters, but they didn't need. And they said that the life forms were difficult to detect, but just beam them all over from the Titan onto the Shrike. Just beam everyone in, or get over there when she can detect the life forms and beam everyone over. I don't know. It seemed like this hand-to-hand get home alone thing. Yeah, I'm just like, just beam them out. They'll just track to beam the ship to safety and then beam them out. We had to strong arm the story to get them onto the ship in the way that we needed to get them on there.
Yeah, the transporters is always a tricky situation, it seems. But the idea is that Vatic has very limited time to complete the mission that she's been given, and she is afraid of her overlord, her hand overlord, her handy guide, her hand job. I mean, the job given by her hand, I mean.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so maybe it's like we could pull them out and go over here, but it'll take just as much time and effort and resources as it would to just be to board. That I would definitely also send like the number one guy being like, this could be a trap, and then they go into a trap, but then they untrap their trap.
Yeah, because they wanted to be trapped.
Am I misunderstanding that the lore situation, unless we find something else out later, the lore being the data lore, Gollum being on the ship was a completely unexpected thing from Vatic. That wasn't part of her plan. She didn't imagine have any idea.
I mean, she knows that he's there because interrogating Riker, I guess. But I mean, there's no way she could have planned for them kidnapping Lore. I don't know how she factors that in.
No, I mean, unless they're like, we let you go there to take data lore because we knew that you were going to take data lore, so we had to plant data lore onto your ship.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. Based on the conversation she was having with the palm reader in the last episode, she's feeling pretty desperate. Like, that didn't seem like, I've got a plan, don't worry, they're going to capture data lore and that's going to get us on the ship.
Good point.
I've only got one more big one because we've kind of covered everything. I think we've covered everything generally discussed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that Sydney should be dead, to be honest. Like, when they're separated, before they even get trapped behind the force field, this changeling is just like gun in hand, plodding after her like Michael Myers instead of shooting her. Like, shoot her. Like, they're dead before the force fields come up. So many times, just that they're choosing not to shoot them for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's more fun to watch them run.
I mean, we could send the shit out of the phasers just in general in this episode.
The fact that they're bullets as well, I don't like that. I want them to
phaser
be
fire
beams.
not firing well, phasers not being set to the proper setting to kill and evaporate, eviscerate, vaporize, whatever the correct word is. You know, it's hard because every time somebody survives like being slammed into a wall or punched or kicked or shot or whatever, I'm reminded of the most insane survival stories known to man that we still have today, like somebody who survives bungee jumping when the bungee jump breaks.
Yeah.
They're literally falling from hundreds and hundreds of feet and they survive somehow. And I'm like, okay, maybe she would be okay. You know what I mean? There's always some weird thing where you find out later that if the bullet had only been, you know, a millimeter to the left, you'd be dead. But it didn't happen that way, so you're okay. So I think about those.
That makes sense.
But yeah, I definitely agree.
Any other sins before we do some predictions?
There's a fighting scene. Jack, like the whole like cat and mouse game of, you know, drop Alpha, drop Bravo, drop Charlie, and all that stuff. They really did not have to practice that for very long to nail it. Like that was executed perfectly. So that was kind of an interesting sort of thing. But I would sin the fuck out of that backlight. There was a light that was like when Jack turns to LaForge, little LaForge, it's like beaming behind him. He is backlit by the sun beams just like glowing around him.
The lens flare.
And I'm like, where the fuck is that light coming from? And then Jack moves slightly. The bad guy character behind moves slightly. And then like there in the wall is just a spotlight.
Nice.
That's just aimed
there
at the
for
camera
lighting.
for special effect.
Boom.
So I would probably send that being ridiculous. I found that to be distracting. It looked fucking cool.
It's emergency
but it was
lighting.
distracting. Oh, I did write down no one would be seated during the whistling changeling torture scene. It just went on for
It
so
did.
long.
All of the creepiness.
Is this show about chaos amongst this? Because we've got like Lore representing chaos, and then Vatic says, you turned us into weapons, spies able to drop into any species and spread chaos. So do you think it's is this episode about Starfleet creating or just chaos being created? I don't know.
That doesn't feel right because Starfleet doesn't like chaos. It's very organized, and I think they're dropping these people in I think the Dominion War and the Borg fucked them up pretty bad, and they're just trying to prevent the next thing before it can happen. So before we go into a really all out and out war, let's cut it off before it starts, because there is a point that Vatic makes earlier is that like the war had barely begun. And you introduced a disease to kill all of my people. Like, you went straight to genocide. So there is this argument about Starfleet being okay with doing that to prevent a war. The needs of the many and what's not. Okay, with that, let's head over to the Captain's Ready Room just to summarize some predictions. Welcome to the Captain's Ready Room, where we hear our predictions for the rest of the season and bask in our Q-like glory for anything that we've previously predicted coming true. What do we have so far? We have got Vatic is going to kill one of the main characters to elevate her to supervillain. Nope, didn't happen. Maybe I said that Vatic may kill Shaw in episode 4 or 5. Nope, hasn't happened. We know about laws. One of the main crew will be a changeling, probably Riker. Technically, I'm right. A changeling has been Riker.
Wow.
Technically, just saying.
Just wow.
Just saying.
Wow.
Wow.
I think there's still a changeling on the ship.
It would make sense, wouldn't it? That would make sense.
But I don't know what they're waiting for at this point.
Yeah.
I thought that they would reveal themselves in this episode, considering,
Yeah. I'm sticking to my guns. I think Jack is the augmented changeling product of Section 31 and was raised in the same lab that Vatic was. And
just lost his memory somehow?
You lost his memory, had it altered. It was like I'm saying, it was in utero and maybe injected into Beverly or injected into Picard so that a baby he creates, or switched out. Maybe they switched out entirely and there are two Jacks. And maybe it's the classic thing of Starfleet's military funding has been reduced or whatever it is, and they're heading back to exploration, and this branch of Starfleet is manufacturing a disaster to get more funding and to get more support. We've seen that happen quite a bit.
Yeah, the perfect way to end Picard's story arc.
Wouldn't it?
Some funding issues.
Yeah.
There was something that the handyman said that I thought was interesting. He's got the floaty head thingy going on, and he's like talking to Vatic, and he's making her kind of like change shape while he's talking, almost like he inflicted some sort of will on her somehow, and she starts to sort of shift in and out of her own face, essentially. But he says you and your kind, while being
that was interesting,
a changeling. Like he himself is a floaty hand guy. I'm thinking that your kind is this. Now that the episode's over, I'm thinking it's the ones that were experimented on that get to live for only 50 years. Is that right?
That's what I think.
So there's no real prediction about, like, they are both changelings, but they're just different sort of versions of changelings.
And I would imagine the main changeling sees them as like an aberration because they're a bit too solid. They have too many of the organs. Yeah.
So there's nothing I can predict from that. That's just a question apparently that I have.
Yeah.
I have a prediction. I have an actual one.
Yeah, do it.
Okay, so Data and Lore, right? At some point, Lore is going to take over this body and it's going to be destroyed. Data is going to transfer himself into the computer ship's programming and become the voice that you hear on the ship. So instead of it being like the computer's voice, it's now going to forevermore be
Live on
Data's
forever
voice.
as Brent Spiner. I love it.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm here for it. I like that. I think so. What's Vadek going to do with the Titan now that she has it? I think maybe she's going to. I mean, in theory, she should now go back to the main villain, the big bad guys. And
Yeah.
I have Jack, I have the ship, and I'm going to bring it all to you and see what happens next. So I think next week we'll actually see the big bads, and maybe they will explain what they want to do with Jack and everyone.
I just want to say for the record, though I cannot prove it, during the show I knew that Lore had taken over the ship as soon as the ship started fucking up and they couldn't beam anybody in and out.
As soon as they walked out of the room, I knew that something was going to happen. Like, yeah, you just left him alone. That was a dick move.
Yeah, not good.
Not good.
I did have a prediction that failed, though. I thought for sure Beverly was actually going to kill Vadek for hunting them down.
Yeah.
I thought the show was going to go there, and I did not get there.
No.
So
No, definitely not. She seems to be
I wanted to tell him myself because I was wrong about that one.
bad Danae.
For a second there, I thought LaForge was actually going to be the changeling. And then the prediction I got wrong this episode.
Mm-hmm. I thought that as soon as like Geordie's daughter was saved, Law was going to kill Geordie, and like, that was going to be the bait and switch.
Holy shit!
Yeah, that would have been dark. No, I don't think they're going to be killing anyone off.
LaForge says this line at the beginning when the conversation with Tuvok fails. LaForge says something like, "Maybe it's time to accept something."
Oh,
like
just accept it.
And I'm like, accept what?
Yeah.
Like turn yourself into the changelings?
That's what
like,
I
and that
thought.
was super suspicious to me. But I just feel like at this point, with him having a pleading moment with Data to save a daughter that wouldn't actually be his, that he's not really a changeling.
No,
I just don't
and I
that's
think it was the thing he was referring to was that there's no one in Starfleet that can help us. But I thought the same thing.
Now I get it. I was like, what is that?
I think that's all of my predictions, to be completely honest. I kind of want to get there and just see what happens.
Me too.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for listening, and thank you for coming with us on this journey through Picard. It is interesting, if nothing else. And we will see you next week. We had our live show as well. We're about to go off and answer some questions from the live chat. If you can join us, please do. CinemaSin, twitch.tv/CinemaSins Live or the CSPN channel on YouTube Live. But
to you.
until next week, I'm Ian, and I'm still trying to figure out whether the tree moved or the apple just fell very far from it.
Yeah, and sometimes, dear, a little bend, a little arch, a little antagonizing flair is required.
Yeah, there it is. I wish I could remember the vomit line. So you just vomit something and think it's for something unique. Anyway, live long and prosper.
Great. Super.
Thanks for listening. Want to connect with the show? Our hailing frequencies are always open through captainspod@cinemasins.com. Like, comment, and subscribe on your podcast player of choice, and be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
How bad do you want to play our video game that we haven't played since you came to America?
I'm desperate. We haven't been able to play because we were on the road, and my laptop could do it because I bought this SSD that can handle it. Danae did not have one of those, so we couldn't do it on the road. We've been too busy. We barely recorded last week's episode, so we apologize for it being a hot mess. But we
Was
just
it a
haven't
hot
had time.
mess?
It was a hot mess.
What do you mean it was a hot mess?
We were miserable. We were so mad.
I mean, but I didn't think that we did a bad show. Are you saying we did a bad show?
No, we did a great. Well, let's see. Let's ask the rest of the
Are
world.
people saying we did a terrible
No
show?
one has mentioned it other than me.
Ian, oh no,
My goodness.
we're failing.
What have I done?
Oh my god.
We actually, bizarrely, had our all-time highest downloads on that day. And I'm like, really? Today? The episode where we're like lagged?
I
People
still
love
have
the
mixed
chaos.
feelings about it. Like I have slept. I've gotten a little bit of sleep since we got back from
Yeah.
Sin Week. I still have mixed feelings about last week's episode.
Yeah.
So like maybe my energy was down, but I didn't think it was a terrible
No,
show. I'm sorry that you hate me.
Wow, that is exactly the words that I said. It's interesting how you managed to pull that out so succinctly. Do you know how many things I have to reach for in Aaron's office? And I've moved
So
his
many.
camera. I've moved his things. I've
Yeah, he's got
repositioned everything.
in Aaron's space, he always has something in his hand.
Yeah, I'm gonna hide them.
And when
all.
we used to
The
do
Sif pop.
live radio, it would be things that made noises. And I'm like, you can't have noise. If it crumples, he would just crumple, 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 crumple. So we had to get him things that don't make noises. I mean, you're probably going to get slapped.
Yeah.
He is watching the show.
Oh, no, he
he's
could be
in the
watching.
other room. He knows what you're
No, he
doing.
could be
He knows
watching.
when you're awake. He knows when you've been bad or good.
This is a great time to find out if he actually watches the live show.
Teacher Ian, who is editing this podcast, I want to apologize.
I'm.
My dog
Yeah.
is losing his mind.
He's just all on you.
Well, and I keep making him go down and then he comes back up. So I'm going to go take care of my dog for a minute.
Okay.
I got to figure out what's going on.
Okay.
Just in case. I don't want him to poop all over me.
While Danae looks for her next note, let's have a crumpet.
Oh my God, I miss crumpets so much. I miss crumpets so much.
That looks so good, doesn't it?
It looks
Oh,
so
man.
good.
I didn't bring any either.
Hey, will you put it back up again?
Yeah, Hang on.
Okay, I'm just going to remove everything. I just need to stare at it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. Look at it. Oh, I just need some butter on there. Look at the crumpet show. Nick says, okay, let's talk episode 6 Sins. How is it no one on the Titan knew that all the ships talked to each other, especially Shaw as the captain? Good point. Good point. Maybe it's like a secret thing. Maybe it was a secret thing that they didn't tell people for some reason.
It
felt secret.
It's a new thing that Geordie has been protesting against. It's newly-ish integrated. Yeah, it's not something that was public knowledge. And the
Okay.
Titan isn't like one of the flagships. Like Titan is borderline Cerritos.
It's a burrito.
It's above Cerritos,
Aw.
but it's not like one of the hero ships. I mean, it is now.
It's called the Titan burrito.
Yes,
I like
that's
it.
exactly what it's called.
Here's a question from Sarah Superior. Eon.
Yes.
Those big goonsters, the goonsters, it's like a gangster, but goon,
Nice.
the goonster. Vatic has with her are Jem'Hadar. Yes or no?
No, I think they're changelings.
But why are they in that shape?
Because
And why are
maybe
they
they
talking
can't
that
hold
way?
their form very well. Maybe the uniform is helping them hold their form. I think the answer is that we would be distracted about what their form was and what they looked like. So they just had to be
Yeah.
put into a uniform.
From a storytelling perspective, it does have to have something different. Yeah. Link says, why did some of the changelings die one shot and some took 10 shots? I think it's because people have their phasers set to different stuns, and I don't know why.
I think it's what the story needs. It doesn't make any sense.
Is Vatic being bullied by other goo people?
Oh,
Yeah.
I suddenly feel sorry for her.
Well, but this goes right into my theory that I'm working on, that Vatic we're getting more of Vatic's story to make us have an element of empathy for the
course,
character
yeah.
to
We're
make a
supposed to
shift at
empathise
some point.
Yeah, they're the best bad guys, the ones that you actually understand their motivations and can side with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so like Vatic's been wronged and tortured and has 8 other buddies out there in the world
Yeah.
somewhere. I don't know if it's the ones that are with her.
Well, she said she can do it to anybody that wants to join with her. So it may
Oh,
not
that's
just
true.
be those 10. It may be
She
more.
can just she can inject people.
Yeah, as soon as they connect,
Like she can
they get the
inject
thing.
Jack.
Yeah.
Like she injected Beverly
Mhm.
and Jack at the same
And Geordie.
time. Because Jack is basically Vatic's actual child. I want to know who else they tried to connect in Starfleet at the beginning of the episode. Link, me too. I had that thought as well. How many conversations have they had with
Yes,
different
all the
Starfleet members?
people.
Because as
Harry
the previously
Kim,
on,
Tom
telling us over and over and over again,
Paris, yeah.
Starfleet has been compromised at the highest level.
Mhm.
So yeah, we're in trouble.
Let's do it.
And every time they contact someone, they're doing this thing where they're telling them a little bit more information about how much they know and potentially where they're at. So it's a tricky situation.
Yeah.
And I think maybe them being taken by the changelings at this point instead of, I don't know. How are they going to get out of this?
Thingy.
Vatic's going to turn. Prediction
Oh,
late in the game.
nice.
I'm going to say Vatic's going to turn.
Nice. That'd
Yeah.
be pretty cool.
That's a prediction.
That'd be pretty cool.
It's a post-show
Yeah.
prediction. It's not actually in the show proper. You
Doesn't
have
count.
to cut that shit out.
Doesn't count.
Yeah. It does,
Doesn't count.
though.
No. Sorry.
Did anyone else think that she was whistling hot cross buns? No,
No,
I didn't.
I thought it was. I thought it was Pop Goes the Weasel. I thought it was the Data tune that she was whistling.
No, it's 3 Blind Mice.
Was it Three Blind Mice?
Yeah, 3
Oh,
blind
see how
mice.
they run.
3
Yeah.
blind mice. See how they run.
Oh, it's all the same. Twinkle Twinkle Little Star is the alphabet song. It's all a conspiracy.
Can we talk about Chekhov's Janeway? We are 100% getting a Janeway cameo in the last episode, right?
So interestingly, Terry Matalas or Dave Blass, I can't remember, one of them has said that Janeway is exclusively Prodigy. So she's one of the main, she voices the cartoon version of Janeway in Prodigy throughout. And they said exclusively hers, we cannot touch her. So I don't think so. I think they've mentioned her because she's a resource that they would talk about. But I could be wrong, but I don't think she's going to turn up. I would love it. I don't think it's going to happen.
Sarah Superior says, Sin, LaCrush, a.k.a. Forger, are going to
Nice.
have such a complicated relationship. I love them, but I don't want to date a guy who can hear my thoughts and control my body.
Fair. Super fair.
I
Right?
mean, Jack would have to. This is a really strange part of the. We didn't really talk about this in length. I want to know more, and I think I'm kind of waiting to find out maybe next episode how much Jack knows about his powers, because if he has done this in the past and he knows that he can do this, he should absolutely have been talking to his mother about this long before now.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
Mom, I think today I spent 45 minutes in somebody else's body scratching their butt. like tell us
Yeah.
something. If this is the first time that he's done it, if he doesn't have some sort of like ethical conversation about his powers and his abilities, I'd be very shocked. I love that LaForge turned a gun on him immediately and is just like, back the fuck off, fucker. I don't know what you just did to
Yeah.
me. Like, I like that.
Well, fuck
But
you up.
also he saved her life by doing that, you know, kind of like sending his consciousness into her. Have they kissed?
No.
Okay. Because I'm wondering how he is getting into her body. If it's it must be telekinetic.
Yeah. He's telepathic now, and we don't know why.
It's telepathic, but it's also like, is it the kinetic part is the movement. So it's not just telepathic. He can read minds. He's
Yeah.
also telekinetic because he can move people.
Well, it all depends if he's moving her muscles or telling her brain to move the muscles. I think that's the distinction.
Oh, interesting. Well, whatever he's doing, it's invasive.
Yeah, right?
Because he didn't just tell her. Like, it seemed like he was choreographing it for her.
He
because
just took over.
If you said punch that guy, and I'm a left-handed person, I'm punching with my left hand, but he's like punching
Yeah.
with his right, and it was exactly like he was playing
Yeah.
through her body, is what it looked like to me.
Yeah, I think so. I
Even
think
to the
he
point where
possessed
he
her.
was shooting. Like,
Yeah.
if you said shoot this guy, she might choose to shoot him in the knee, but he was like ching ching ching, like
No, he
right.
was in control. This was
Yeah,
like a VR
okay.
headset thing.
Yeah, it did feel like it was a
That's what it
control
felt like.
situation. I'm going to answer no to this next one from Link. What do you think, Ian? Do you think that it would be better if the show is 20 episodes?
If it was episodic, yes. If it's this mystery, no.
Yeah. I think given their format, I would not enjoy it because
No.
I think that it would really struggle to keep a momentum element to it.
Mm-hmm.
But great question.
Is the difference between do I want Strange New Worlds to be 20 episodes long? Fuck yeah, I do.
Because it's episodic and it does change
Yeah.
the vibe.
Mm-hmm.
This came up a couple times, thinking that the Shrike had actually exploded after the hold on a second, that wasn't this one. There was one about Riker chucking the asteroid into the Shrike
Oh,
and thinking that it
the
had
Shrike
been
should have blown up.
exploded. Yeah. And Josh Zero says when Vadic showed back up, he asked Mrs. Zero, didn't the Shrike explode? And my answer
Bits
is
of it
apparently
exploded.
not.
No, I did. I watched that really carefully, and it hit the shields, and there was a big explosion. It did not destroy it or do a huge amount of damage. It was enough to kind of throw them off. Yeah.
Why are the changelings going after Jack instead of Shinzon? Who is Shinzon?
So Shinzon is the clone that I mentioned. So the Romulans managed to get some of Picard's DNA, cloned him, and the plan was to invade Starfleet with a clone of Picard. But they somehow knew that Picard was going to be Billy Big Balls, but who knows? They abandoned that plan and sent Shinzon to Remus, and then Remus he rose up and created this army and took over the Romulan Empire. So there's a really easy to answer to this. Shinzon died at the end of Nemesis, unless I'm being a dick. But he was on the Scimitar and they blew up that ship, and Shinzon died at the end of
There you
Nemesis.
go. Now you know.
So I think that's the answer to that.
There's also mention about like the changelings wanting to have Jack because of his powers. So maybe they're just thinking that once they unite, they absorb part of it or something. I don't know.
Well, this is what kind of checks out with Vadic knowing about Jack, and maybe she joined with the Link so that they know about Jack and they want to use Starfleet's newest weapon against them, perhaps, to create an army of Jacks.
Okay, here's one from Nick. Oh, in the Kelvin timeline, there was a Section 31 secret base in London where Khan
Yeah.
was. What if, when Jack went to school in London, he was kidnapped by Section
That
31?
makes a lot of
They
sense.
experimented on him there. Oh
yeah,
my God.
I think either way, I think that period of time where Beverly and Jack are separated and he's at school is a great time for him to be kidnapped, replaced, experimented on, whatever. Yeah, that makes sense.
The mind meld that Seven mentioned at the beginning of the episode was from the episode when all the Borg voices were stuck in her head from the Borg destroying the beacon that those aliens made.
I remember. Yeah, so that was referring to something that happened in Voyager. I do remember that. But it was worded a bit oddly. But yes, well remembered. Well done.
Here's a question from Nick. The question is, why is Bucket potentially a sin for episode 3?
Yeah,
Vadic says that she can give her powers to the changelings and that she no longer needs to turn into goo. So why is Bucket?
Which is why I think that this is still a changeling plan, and that guy was a regular changeling, and there's only a few of these special changelings.
Maybe they don't want to be a 50-year-old dead changeling.
Exactly, because you gotta give up your 1,000 year lifespan.
Oh, this would have been so fucking cool, Nick. When Vadic turns into Jack
Oh, boy.
and says, "Are you prepared to lose another son?" to Beverly, wouldn't it have been so much better if she turned into evil Wesley in that
Yes.
moment? Oh,
that
my
would be
God.
manipulative. However,
If Wesley's face had popped up, oh shit.
However,
However.
they need to have seen the body. They need to have seen
Oh.
Wesley and
Okay.
touch him and stuff to imitate him, I think.
Touch him
But
and
yes.
stuff
Would have been awesome.
would have been awesome.
And stuff. Yeah, would have been great.
Picard would have come in and said, "Shut up, Wesley."
it really emotional moment, and Picard's just like, "Shut up, Wesley." Whoa, that was weird. I'm so sorry. That was so inappropriate. I have a really quick one. Rima78 says, "Which one of you two wrote on the D&D script?"
Let's raise our hands. Both of
Of
us
course,
did.
we both
actually.
did. Yeah, we simmed the heck out. We wrote such a beefy script for that. We tortured ourselves whittling that down to the video that you
That
see. It was
fucking
much
movie,
longer.
man. What
That
a trip.
movie. Not so
I was so
talented are you
disappointed.
now, Mr. Ridley.
Mr. Ridley,
Yes, give me your power.
give me your power.
Like I can't imagine. Can his voice just do that? I had no
growling
idea.
all the time.
I didn't know until Ian wrote a sin about it that was Scar's voice from the
Yes.
original Lion King that I watched when I was a kid
Yes.
because I had no idea.
So good.
So fucking cool.
Oh, Jeremy Zion.
Link asks a question about the schedule. Can you pull that one up and I'll go look and see.
Velma, that was written by Aaron Dicer and Daniel Cardoso, because I am the living, walking Cinema Sins encyclopedia. So yeah, that was...
No, you looked it up.
No, I looked up the video. I didn't look up who wrote on
You
it.
looked it up.
I knew who wrote
looked
on it
it up.
because I reviewed it. But yeah, that was Aaron and
That's the
Daniel.
real
It's a
answer.
beefy video. We usually put a limit on TV sins, but there was no limit on this video. It's a 20-minute episode and it's like 70 sins or something ridiculous.
At one point, Sarah said that didn't think that it's bad that Starfleet made the virus because they were trying to find a way to defend themselves against goo people. I think I agree. Like, biological warfare. Just war in general sucks.
Warfare.
That's what Worf breathes,
Yeah.
is warfare.
Yes, he just breathes warfare. That was great. That was so good. Nice. Proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have to get the show done in 17 minutes, by the way.
Fuck!
Yeah, it's going to be
All
a big
right,
one.
let's
Let's go.
go.
Let's do it. Where's my intro? Gosh, dang it.
How are you not prepared for the very thing we're doing?
Welcome to 10 Forward.